This is the Game Philosopher, and this video is a little odd because I'm not publishing my video in the usual format I usually do because I wanted to separate them, but this is important. In fact, I am actually right now talking and thinking about the Cybernetics video I did last time, which was a little bit rushed. So I wanted to do a follow-up. That's because I know this is a big subject, and I'm not going to talk about it from the basics like I did last time. In fact, that video was so rushed that I thought that it needs another go. It needs a second video to follow up. It needs something that really magnifies the subject of cybernetics, and I thought, what better way to do it than to talk about the political side of things? But I don't mean politics as in vote this party, vote that party. In fact, I don't care about that stuff right now. What I'm caring about is systems of political existence. So you have, for example, in Aristotle, he has family at the bottom, the lowest, the basic form of human association. So in the family, you don't just have mother, father, daughters, sons. You have a group that starts off from the grandfather, who's the oldest male, and grandmother, the oldest female of the family. They have birth. They give birth to children, which branch off into more children. So you have this big unit that's decently, I'd like to say, hierarchical. Sorry, anarchists, there's a hierarchy there. Um, because the oldest male and female are the ones who have the most wisdom and knowledge, so they provide for the children who provide for their children. And what happens is this knowledge flows from generation to generation as they're trying to look out for each other, and they're trying to look out for each other's best interests. And yet, what happens a lot of times is you might have a son or daughter or whatever who will cause chaos from time to time because they're looking out for their own interests. And you have all these different political things that go on. And in the ancient world, you have a lot of family feuds and murders that happen as a result. In modern days, with uh, laws in place and technology in place that would prevent such a thing, you don't see that stuff happen as much anymore without destroying a whole entire family right off through jail time and obviously some people dying. But when we're talking about this, it's a political situation because you see people are motivated by their interest and their anxieties and all. They kind of interact together and it forms this very beautiful thing. And a wise, I'm going to use the Roman term, paterfamilias, the oldest person in the family, who has all this knowledge that branches off. That person who's wise will unite the family and teach good ethics and morals by which they are all focusing around, and it creates this cohesive system. This I'm going to use old Arabic terms, asabiya. It's social cohesion. It's this idea of all working together within a tribe. But of course, a family is not a tribe, but it's a smaller system. Going up, you have the village. Now, a village, in my opinion, could be either the village as in the city, where many families congregate as a living body of citizens in a certain city. So you could say, have so many people in Los Angeles who make up Los Angeles. They're part of this greater human association called Los Angeles, but they're all individual families. And I haven't done the statistics, so I can't really tell you how many families are in Los Angeles. Even if I could find it, it's probably a rough guesstimation based off of consensus data, which happen to be good, but sometimes they are not. It depends on who is checking the mathematics and who's looking at the counting. But so you have these guys, then they interact with other families, which creates the village, which can also, by the way, when you look at uh, church communities and uh, other uh, religious communities like mosque and all, uh, what you will see is a lot of people call each other brothers or brothers and sisters. And the reason for this is because that's another political association. People don't like to think of a religion or religious um, parish, community, or whatever as a religious or a political association because they want to separate religion from politics. But while I do agree with this sentiment, um, it is very much a political association because you have many different families together, and people are, by their own nature, a political animal. So they are united by their worship of a deity, and they are united by these certain social ethics and values which they congregate together to some type of uh, priest, and they get together, they worship together, they eat together, they have discussion together, they do stuff together, they take care of the greater village together. As in, outside of the religious community, they might do um, charitable events. Then, outside of that, of course, and outside of the villages and the cities and all, you have the county, which is still, I can explain them all as all the taxes and all you get from all the different villages go into the county, and all the different taxes from the county go into the state. All the different state taxes go into the government. And I'm talking this from a American standpoint because, of course, a state in most countries means the greater government. Well, in most countries also means that what we call a state in America, it's really just a province. So uh, there you have it. There's a basic structure, and this can be found in Aristotle's Politics. I really recommend that book. You guys should read it. In fact, I love Aristotle. If things have not been so clear, even though this channel used to be more Platonic, it's become more peripatetic as they go along. Um, Now, going from that basic description of how everything is political, I'm going to look at the whole conception of how the politics interacts and how things work. So, there's a few books I would really like to recommend. Two of them are by a very controversial figure, by the way. In fact, if you watch my videos, you know I like controversial figures a lot because they're fun to talk about. Doesn't mean I actually necessarily agree with them. So, yeah, the Diplomacy by Henry Kissinger. Now, this is going to really hurt the conspiracy theorists, get them talking. But Henry Kissinger, World Order. These two books tell us all about how uh, political objectives have been won by ambassadors and how societies can get together through international relations and politics to tackle major issues. And Henry Kissinger, he was okay at this. In fact, he's called the American Machiavelli for a reason. And he had so much wisdom in this area that he was able to actually get Mao, who was one of America's greatest enemies at one point, to sit down and discuss things. And he won so many victories, which have been ultimately put under scrutiny and forgotten because Richard Nixon was corrupt and did some really corrupt stuff, which of course led to his impeachment. So that's one thing. And the thing is, taking all that, looking at politics in the higher level of things, we see a political system develop which can also look at things from the standpoint that we all have interest. So you have country A, country B, and you have country C, country D. So country A will want to take country B. So country B is allied with country D, and country C is neutral and does not know what to do. So as it all unfolds, country A wants to invade country B. So what the country A might do is either they got some interest for country D to stop them from defending country B. So country A might pay some rights to the country D to have them ignore it as country A invades country B. Or country A might go to this country C and say, okay, we like you. We're going to give you some money, come and some trade rights. Come on, let's go. Let's attack country B together. Or country B might ally with this guy to attack country D while he's going up and attacking country A. This is because they're all motivated by profit or by fear. So, for example, when Hitler was doing his stuff, everyone likes to talk about Hitler because he was one of the world's most evil men in history. He pretty much based most of Europe. None of his objectives really ended any war because everyone wanted him to end the war because they just let him attack, 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 with the idea being that Hitler would tire himself out and eventually stop conquering. So this didn't work. So there's a place called Poland. Everyone knows Poland. Um, Hitler attacks Poland after angering the British so many times and the French so many times. Actually, he had already conquered the French, so he attacks Poland, um, angering the Russians. And what Mussolini in the South, what he does is he kind of, up to this point, he's kind of shifting his loyalties a lot. At one point, he's supporting Britain. At one point, he's supporting Germany, and he's actually about to lay war on Germany over their attack of Austria. So Stalin comes in and he starts clashing with Hitler. They declare war. You know the rest. Eventually, traditional enemies such as America, by the way, who entered the war only because of Japanese attacks, comes in and helps their traditional enemy, Britain, fight and try to liberate Europe from Nazi occupation. And this is all because of a system of complex interest that's going on. And by the way, even Japan's acting through complex interest because America, up to that point, cut off all their oil supply and all, which really angered them. Uh, because they were wanting to take over China, and they were doing all sorts of evil stuff in China, which I'm not going to talk too much about because that's for another video on human rights. I'm talking about politics and systems. Um, so they were doing a lot of cruel stuff, which caused America to shut off trade to do embargo, which was a very common political tactic. It's still used today to avoid war, but still punish an enemy for doing something evil. Then what happens is they attack America, and then America gets involved, and so you have the Soviets working with their enemies, imperialists and capitalists. Uh, America is working with their enemies, Britain and well, Russia's not quite an enemy. I mean, like they were kind of ideologically separate, but they weren't really so much enemies, although they were the United States did help out a little bit when it comes to trying to stop the Russian Revolution. But the point is, they were surprisingly very friendly because they were all motivated by common interest to try to kill Hitler, to try to stop the Nazis, to try to stop the Japanese from their attacks and causing a world order to establish, establishing a peace. And then you have the atomic age, where you have this really interesting politics, which, by the way, we're still in the atomic age, but early atomic age, which was the Cold War, had like this interesting little politics that's going on where, since everyone feared the nukes, big countries would pay and influence smaller countries to wage war on other small countries and ship off arms and all. And that's how pretty much how conquest is done today. And that's why a lot of times you don't see so much big activities from bigger countries to conquer smaller countries because then nuclear bombs would happen and that would pretty much end us all. So you have this complex political system, political machine, which is international politics of today that's going on. But how does all this really interact within how we view systems? Well, on a smaller level, you have four different ways of thinking, and this is levels of thinking, by the way. From you have the animalistic thinking, which is how our bodies communicate with us, to where I'm hungry, so I'm going to grab something. I'm thirsty, I'm going to grab something to eat and drink. I'm angry, so I'm going to act this way. I'm sad, so I'm going to act this way. I'm anxious, so I'm going to act this way. Next level of thinking is more rational. This is still animalistic thinking, by the way, so it's still very small level of thinking. It's how we communicate things. So I'm hungry, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk and try to get some food. I'm going to say, hey, can I have a burger, like guy at McDonald's? uh, I'm thirsty, so I'm going to be like, hey, can I have some water? Can I have soda? Can I have milk? Can I have wine? Whatever. Then the next level of thinking after this is the logical and dialectical. So this is more of the thinking of syllogisms and dialectics and how we argue. And of course, I've already done a big series on that. It's all based on the logical tables and all this other stuff. You can look at it. In fact, my other video on cybernetics talked about this. It's not really too hard to understand because you're looking at concepts and critically in a very focused way looking at ideas. Next level is called cybernetic thinking, and that's how things interact as a system. That's why Aristotle calls us a political animal. We have a way of thinking based off of who are my enemies, who are my friends, who's out for my interest, who's out to destroy me. Um, how can I get my particular village or my family or my country to prosper through this one thing? How can I obtain the what I need to get to here? How's my action going to interact within the greater whole of a system? That's why it's called often systemic thinking, which I think is a bad term because systemic thinking sounds like systematic, and so it confuses people. So let's just call it political thinking or cybernetic thinking. Either way works. And so in this higher level of thinking, this is a very elite level thinking, by the way. Almost every political figure thinks this way, and certainly many high level businessmen think this way, and even high level religious leaders think this way, because we're dealing with how people are. And when you are dealing with how people are, you're going to learn this. And it's going to be either through education or it's going to be through experience that you're going to learn how people are. So, no matter what, you can't avoid this. It's because, like, I put my input in. I say, or I do something. I might even say or do nothing, and this has a communicative effect. So this causes another person or another association or another organization to be like interacting with my doing something or doing nothing, and this causes an output to happen, which happens to benefit how many ever many people, or even benefit myself or whatever. And if you look at this way, this whole entire cybernetic thinking, it's, it's all based on the same principles as you would look at diplomacy, international politics, as I discussed earlier in this video. So keep that in mind. So you have your friends, you have your enemies, you have so on, so on, so on. You might have even sometimes how people might interact violently. A lot of times you give them enough rope to hang themselves and they will hang themselves. So if they hate you and they keep blasting you, but as they're blasting you and you're really being a jerk, a lot of people who don't think about systems and all, they might try to attack back, and that makes them look bad because that gives this other guy propaganda material to really destroy you. But at the same time, if you do nothing, you let it happen. You have enough material to destroy this guy who's attacking you, or your friends or family, whatever, your association. So it's all about the association. So recapping, in one simple phrase, you got to learn the politics. All people are political animals, and systems are a thing we work as a political animal to get what we need as even in a basic level. So we really got to think about these things. And please like, comment, subscribe. Tell me, do you find cybernetic or political thinking important? Tell me, how would you understand political thinking in this comment section below? And hit the bell button. Enjoy your day. Share this video out if you think anyone could understand it or who would want to use it and enjoy it. Thanks for watching.